who killed Breeze and how. Omari and I came up with it, which I think was a really cool idea, is that Tommy had the drop on Breeze, could have taken all the glory, but let Ghost have that kill because he knew that would advance him. And Tommy somehow, without even realizing it, just knew that Ghost needed to lead and Tommy needed to follow it.
Now, in today's breakdown, we are going to be talking all things Power Origins. I think at this point, everybody's seen what 50 Cent posted over on social media, and also what was teased prior to the final episode of Force. For those who didn't see it, they did drop a small teaser introduction, but there is still a lot more. Throughout Power Book 4 Force Season 3, there were a couple of BTS videos that were released, but with Force being on and with all the breakdowns for Force Season 3, you guys know sometimes I like to kind of let this stuff build up, let all the information be released, and then we unpack it in one big breakdown to get everybody up to speed. And that's the topic of today's breakdown. We're going to take a look at the small teaser they released, run through potential release date ideas and predictions. We're then going to take a look at the casting because it has been a while. So we'll just give ourselves a quick reminder of who's been confirmed so far. And then we're going to get into 50 Cent's post, the images that he released, a very big Easter egg and clue, along with the BTS shots of young Ghost in action. We'll then run through some quotes from Joseph Sikora and Amari Hardwick to round off on some thoughts on Power Origins, especially with the relationship between Kanan and Ghost and their particular dynamic. So that's the agenda, a lot to unpack and run through for all things Power Origins Season 1. Now, for those who missed it, this was a short teaser that was released prior to the final episode of Force. They teased Power Origins will be coming soon, and all legends start somewhere. The Tommy and Ghost that we knew back in Power when we were first introduced to them, these aren't the guys that we are going to originally see in Power Origins. I do think they are actually going to be deeply in the game by the time we see them, and they are going to get straight into business. But very much like the young Kanan and Jukebox, we've learned there is a process, there's a journey that they have to go through. They have to experience a lot of life lessons, go through pain, heartbreak, setbacks, and trauma. They are going to fail at some things and succeed with others. There's probably going to be a lot of manipulation in the streets as well, but we'll probably see a lot of manipulation from them as well, especially Ghost, especially when it comes to Ghost. I do think he's going to do a lot of grimy shit in Power Origins. But that's the short teaser that was released for Power Origins. All legends start somewhere. Now, in terms of the release date, they haven't actually announced anything at this moment in time, but they are in the process of filming. They did announce that filming was beginning back in November 2025. Around mid-December, they were also filming episode 3. So I do assume right now they're probably around the episode 4 mark, but we also know there are 18 episodes for season 1, which I still expect to be split into 2 sets of 9. And with them releasing this short teaser announcing Power Origins is coming soon, I'm personally hoping we do see it at the back end of 2026 in fall. I personally think we'll see Raising Kanan Season 5 around summer, and shortly afterwards I do think they're probably going to get straight into Power Origins Part 1 of Season 1. So I'm thinking, or rather hoping, we do see young Ghost and Tommy on our screens towards the end of 2026. Now, in terms of the casting, we know Traymon will be returning. Not sure in what capacity, but I do think Raising Kanan Season 5 will probably give us a pretty good idea. We've got Jay Boogs, who I think will be a very loyal soldier to Tommy and Ghost, someone who the fans grow to love. Omei Maru, a superstar. It does seem like they're going to delve deeper into this extravagant world of wild parties and the rich lifestyle that comes with it. Lenny Sedell, a fitness entrepreneur who is always looking for new business partners. Jill Wexler, Tom Egan's girlfriend, who happens to be a nurse. I'm sure Kate will definitely have plenty to say and comment when it comes to Jill, because she always has something to say about Tommy's girlfriends, whether that be Holly, Lakeisha, or Maria. I'm expecting the same for Jill in Power Origins. And that also brings us to Kate Egan. Really looking forward to seeing her in action. She's described as attention-seeking, manipulative, and desperate to get her hands on her next fix. But despite this, Tommy is fiercely devoted to Kate. So with that being said, that brings us up to speed on the cast. Now it's time to move over to the main players, who are of course the young Kanan, Ghost, and Tommy. Now, this was an image that was posted from 50 Cent over on social media a couple of days ago. We've got him with the young Ghost and Tommy in front of a car wash, and I think you guys already know what we're going to be talking about next, but for those of you who don't or may have forgotten, this was said back in OG Power around Kanan's car wash back in Season 2, Episode 3.
Man, hand-to-hand cash is the move when you wash your money. We learned that from you and your car wash. You remember that? Ghost ain't never had a good idea he didn't steal from you.
Which is exactly what we saw them do with the wash and folds, but Ghost learned this from Kanan, who actually used to own a car wash back in the day. That's how Kanan used to clean his cash, which is something we haven't seen so far in Raising Kanan. We've seen the younger Kanan learn from Rock, learn from Marvin, taking things from Uncle Lou as well. More so in season 4, he's been mentored by Snaps and Pop. We've seen him hustling and making money through his weed business early in season 3. We saw him take this career system and make that work for his organization. Even back in season 1, the Van Wyck idea was Kanan's. This was a very smart kid that we were introduced to, a hustler, because of the family that he was born into. But at the same time, something that we haven't seen from him so far is cleaning his money. He needs to learn about longevity in the game, cleaning his cash and looking after his money. You look at the two characters that he has seated in front of him for majority of the time in season 4, mentoring him in season 4, and no doubt in season 5 as well. Talking about longevity, these are two OGs in the game who have been there and done that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were the ones who guided him on the right path, having to clean his cash at some point in the future. So it does look like we are going to see the car wash business in Power Origins. Not sure if we're going to see it in Raising Kanan, but it does look like it will be in play early in Power Origins season 1. With that being said, let's move over to some BTS images of them filming Power Origins. Now, during Force Season 3, I did see these over on Instagram, posted by Chronicles of Power, which is run by Kimi. These are a couple of BTS videos, one where a few guys stick and move, where we see law enforcement rolling up on them in the streets. But we've also got a young Ghost in action. He's talking to his crew. He looks like he's someone who's well in the game at this point. We know by casting Spencer Moore, who, by the way, does actually resemble the younger Omari Hardwick. He posted this back in December, and I'm not gonna lie, it does actually look like they've got a very close resemblance with Spencer Moore, which is why I was saying during the announcements of Spencer Moore and Charlie Chapman, the comments around him not resembling Omari were quite harsh, and I do think Spencer Moore is a phenomenal actor who will actually body the role of Ghost. We know Sasha Penn, we know what he's done with Raising Kanan, we know how well they've casted Raising Kanan, and I'm expecting no different from Power Origins. But with that being said, it does look like they're getting straight into business with him and young Tommy being in the game, being in the streets. The fact that they've already got young soldiers like Jay Boogs working underneath them, they're already up and running with their operation. We've got him in boss mode where it looks like he's someone who commands respect, someone who has authority already, someone who loves to be in control. Remember, this was a man who always loved to be in control back in Power, and no doubt that is going to be a trait we do see in Power Origins. Now, just because we do see Ghost in control and in the streets pretty much straight away here, it doesn't mean that we're not going to be seeing or hearing about the past, because I do think we will. Jennifer Ferrin, who also plays a young Kay Egan, did mention that Power Origins will be a mixture of the late 90s and early 2000s, which tells me we're probably going to be in for a few flashbacks at some point in season 1. They've got 18 episodes to really flush this story out, and I do think with a story like this, with what they can tell, the history with young Ghost and Tommy, 18 episodes with a mixture of where they are at this moment in time, in the early 2000s, flashbacks and conversations, they really do have a lot of time to really flush this story at the right pace, which I do think they will. Again, with Sasha Penn at the helm, we know what he's done with Raising Kanan, how well-paced Raising Kanan is, and I am expecting very much similar for Power Origins, or even better when it comes to Power Origins, because they've got a lot more episodes to play with rather than just the 10 episodes a season. I don't actually expect to see a lot of the stories that we've had in Power, things that we've already heard in Power, such as Angela leaving Ghost heartbroken. I personally don't think we need to see that. They would be cool Easter eggs, and no doubt we will see few moments that were spoken of back in Power, just like the car wash or Tommy and Ghost driving a Honda Accord. But I personally don't think we need to see everything. We don't need to see a heartbroken Ghost with Angela leaving him when he was younger, because we already know that. Why do we need to see it? We can hear them make reference to it in conversations, but I just think get straight into the story that we don't know. Relationships, characters that they had a bond with in the streets, just like Jay Boogs, Ghost past in terms of his family, or should I say lack of family that he had, his upbringing, the relationship between Tommy and Kate. For example, what Joseph Sikora mentioned, how in his mind he created this backstory that his first kill was an abusive ex-boyfriend of Kate's, them building their organization, basically how these legends started where they started, and how they ended up being the drug dealers that we saw on Power through loss of loved ones, manipulation, being mentored by not just Kanan and Breeze. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of others that came and went during their late teens and early 20s. But most importantly, I think the relationship between Kanan, Ghost and Tommy, this dynamic, I think there's going to be a lot of love between them and genuine love, but at the same time, how much of it was also manipulation? Over on X, I posted this recently, which was the conversation between Ghost and Kanan from season 1. It was Ghost trusting the word of Kanan that Roller was behind the hits to his organization. Ghost was always too trusting in Kanan, even after he sent him to prison. There will be a lot of love between them in Power Origins, and then the trust that we basically saw at the beginning of Power will make more sense. But just how much manipulation is involved from Kanan's end? And this is what I mean about getting straight into business in terms of what we don't know. We already know Angela left Ghost, so we don't need to see that. What we need to see is the relationship and bond between Ghost and Kanan, what made them brothers, why they were so close, and why Ghost was so trusting in Kanan when it came to power, even though this was a man he set up to go to prison. Remember, Ghost was able to pull the trigger on Breeze, even though he loved him like a brother. He said that in conversation with Tariq.
I loved Breeze. He was a brother to me. He was family to me.
Now let's flip that scenario. If Ghost was able to pull the trigger on his brother, if Ghost was able to kill someone that he loved in Breeze, why wasn't he able to do the same thing with Kanan when Tasha wanted Ghost to get rid of Kanan? She wanted Ghost to kill him, but he couldn't. Why? Kanan was there during a big moment of his life, which was the death of his pops, but there's also going to be more to that particular story, no doubt. There's going to be more to this relationship, which we don't know, but also how much of this relationship was built on manipulation. I do think the love will be genuine between them, don't get it twisted. I do think there will be a lot of love between the two and also Tommy, and we'll get to Tommy in a separate video as well. But we have to remember who the young Kanan is also being groomed to become, with the likes of Rock as his mother, Snaps and Pop as his mentors in raising Kanan. We only have to look at how manipulative they've been as of late in season 4, getting rid of Famous, killing Crystal, manipulating Kanan into thinking Rock was the one who took them both out. I think if we were to list all the lies and manipulation from Rock from season 1, we'd be here all day. But this is a young man who's been manipulated since the day he was born up until now. And now when we look back at Power and see the moves that he made, how manipulative he was, how great of a chess player he was, how much of a liar he was. I mean, come on. Are any of us actually surprised? At the same time, with that being said, would anybody be surprised if the younger Kanan then started to use similar tactics of manipulation to gain Ghost and Tommy's trust and love? Definitely not. Amari Hardwick also mentioned that we don't know the character before Club Truth. We didn't know much about his life prior, and it is actually crazy because when we think about what Amari said, it is actually true. We saw this man on screen for 6 seasons of Power, 63 episodes in total, but we still find ourselves asking the question in terms of who Ghost was and what made him the character that we saw on Power. We definitely know parts of who he was, but even at times on Power, a lot of characters used to ask the same question.
But who is James St. Patrick?
That is the question.
Precisely.
This is why there's still so much to learn about who Ghost was from multiple different perspectives, angles, and characters. And I do think we definitely need to pay close attention to the relationship that he had with Kanan. Going back to the car wash picture that 50 Cent posted, Tommy even said there wasn't a great idea Ghost didn't steal from him. So Kanan will no doubt have a huge influence on Ghost in his early years. And this is one of the relationships and dynamics I'm really looking forward to seeing in season 1. The love between them, why Ghost was very trusting in Kanan, trust that continued into the early parts of Power, why he was able to kill Breeze but not Kanan. Did Kanan have anything to do with killing Ghost's father, Curtis St. Patrick? Same question for Breeze. We know Curtis St. Patrick wanted to keep Ghost on the straight and narrow, whereas we know Kanan would have probably wanted to groom him like he's now being groomed by Snaps and Pop. Which also brings me over to the red pill and the blue pill of Power. A lot of the circumstances that some of these guys have grown up in, their upbringing and their early influence definitely wasn't in their control. Many of you may remember my red pill and blue pill breakdown from over a year ago, and we spoke about how many characters in Power have actually been given the choice of the blue pill. Or was it just an illusion of them having a choice? For example, Ghost did have the opportunity to go to Choate, but we learned he turned it down because he couldn't leave Tommy behind. He had the option to take the blue pill, but what we don't know is the manipulation, the lies, potentially Kanan and Breeze being behind Curtis St. Patrick's death. That probably pushed him down the path of the red pill, Kanan's arm around his shoulder, pushing him down the path of the red pill as well. As we spoke about in that particular breakdown, when you're young, you're at the mercy of your influences because you don't know about the world that you're in until you're a bit older. But by then, is it too late? Because of your upbringing, your parents, the place that you grew up in, the influences around you, and they definitely weren't good influences. Kanan, Breeze, and no doubt we're going to get into a lot more. So it is a theme that I set by myself over a year ago, and it is something we'll no doubt keep in mind for Raising Kanan Season 5, and also Power Origins. But that's a wrap with where we are with Power Origins at this moment in time, and just some history, some storylines and topics I really do hope they dive deeper on, which I do think they will. The relationship between Ghost and Kanan, as well as Tommy, there'll be plenty of time to discuss individual characters, but this relationship and dynamic particularly, I'm really intrigued to see how it develops. With that being said, drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.